update regarding the Human Resource Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, just a few initial observations on my part as I start my work here in West Bend. I'm very impressed with the facilities themselves. They're very clean, very good shape. And in fact, I met an employee, her name is Teresa Wendler. I found her, I saw her scrubbing the stairwell from the outside on her hands and knees. And if you take a look around, her work is very evident. So I think that's an unsung hero that I could spot. And she's a very pleasant person as well. So I think, and that's a really good, the first impression you get of a school is the facilities. So that's very nice. And then just some initial observations I had with the central office. And I think that's kind of a good word, central, in terms of supporting. A lot of hardworking people. And I see them kind of with their heads down, working very diligently, always on task. I've never, and I don't think employees are watching, that I'm watching them, but I am. And I see that they're very task-oriented, and I don't see a lot of side conversations and people doing work avoidance and so forth. So they're very pleasant people as well, just very good people. They've made me feel very welcomed, and so I think we've got a lot of potential with that staff. And then just another bit of information, I'm working with a group of teachers, around 25, who are reviewing the current teacher salary framework. And I've got to tell you, they're very, very engaged. They have a lot of good ideas. Thus far, we've been reviewing the salary structure framework, and we've identified strengths, about 30 items that are strengths. And then we, as a group, identify flaws, weaknesses in other words. There happen to be around 90. And so we're working together to, at this stage of our work, we're going to be taking roughly around 10 items that are worthy of attention, and we're going to be problem solving and working to see how we can reduce those flaws and make the program a little more understandable, easier to administrate, and they have some ideas about how we can incorporate some of our values such as continuing education and making sure that that system rewards that. So that's moving around really nicely, and Laura and I are enjoying the group. Just this past weekend, including today, wrapped up, we had our health reimbursement account event, and that is a really progressive. I've got to call your attention to that. That's a very progressive benefit that you have here in the district, in that you have a health reimbursement account that is very nice financially. It helps people pay for their deductibles and reduces that almost by half when they participate in the health reimbursement health fair. And so they go through a screening, and then they, which is very good because it's proactive, and you have a wonderful facility here for a clinic. And so those things that you're building into the system are really effective, and almost 950 staff members and their spouses attended this fair. There's a company called HealthStat, and I heard that they're very effective. And in the next month, the people that went through that screening are going to get their results. And if there are some concerns about the health, they're going to be asked to make some regular checkups. And so again, we can be proactive and help them manage their health. And so it's a win-win situation. And President Larson did a really nice job explaining the wellness event. And free for admission this evening is a t-shirt for all the board members. There's large and medium sizes, so please, I brought those for you to take with you. And next I want to move into our open positions. And last year, during the school year 2016 through 2017, approximately 100 positions were filled, which tells me it's a very busy function in terms of recruiting. Currently, we have a number of openings. Let me just start with some of the categories. So in terms of our aides, we have 2 classroom aides that are open right now, 5 special ed aides, and 9 non-classroom aides. So that's the lay of the land there. And then professional staff, and those include positions such as facilities coordinator, an HR position, a health room professional, and we have 6 openings in that area. There are 10 teacher positions. There are some very difficult to fill positions within that number. For instance, there are 2 math teachers that we're struggling to not only fill regular full-time positions, but also to find substitutes. And I was reading the Chicago Tribune this weekend, and northwest suburbs in Chicago are having a real difficult time finding substitutes. So I would imagine Wisconsin is going to follow suit. And so combined with a teacher shortage in subs, that we're going to have to get quite creative with recruiting. And we have 1 administrator position open. That's the interim. That's the director of finance, which I have a candidate coming in tomorrow to visit with us. And we have our interim in place, so he's doing really. I think he's going to be a very good addition to our team to help us stem the tide during this period of transition. So that's some of the highlights I wanted to share with you.
Are substitutes already secured for the first week of school, since it is next week?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. It's not like on a normal day where...
I would have to say the math substitutes we're struggling with.
Okay.
We had like two people apply for the regular positions, so they're very hard to find.
Okay. Thanks.
With the 2 math positions, can you tell us where is that high school, is that middle school? Do you? Sorry.
No problem. Just bear with me.
While Mr. Holbrook is looking up that information, I just also want to clarify that the Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning is also open at this time yet.
I apologize. I don't have the specific. I have all the other positions, but not the specific teacher vacancies.
Okay, so let me ask another question. This probably isn't necessarily one that Russ can answer, but perhaps Laura can answer. So let's assume, just for the sake of this conversation, that we are down 2 teachers at Badger in math. Let's say that it's the middle school. What happens then? Who covers those classes? How do we ensure that our students are getting the proper math education that they need and deserve?
So if we're done with 2 math teachers in a particular school, we will look to see what are our options as far as rescheduling students into different classes, what are our class sizes. We will also, because we will not go over a certain limit, because it needs to be conducive to good instruction. Additionally, we will look to add our substitute population and what substitute teachers do we have that could fill that gap. With that, is there additional support needed by our coaches in order to make sure it gets off to a strong start? And so those are some of the things that we'll do in order to make sure that we have a highly performing classroom from day 1 on.
So really then, I mean, you would say the bulk of, if you're saying subs are hard to find, and we're gonna be down, I mean, really then we're looking to our coaches then to step in and help out.
To support. I think that we will have individual people in the classrooms. One of them we've already had some discussion about earlier today, and I just didn't get a chance to catch up with Mr. Holbrook after this, prior to this meeting. And so we've already had some discussion about that one, and then we had not yet gotten onto the secondary one. Not secondary as a level, but the other classroom.
Well, and I guess what I'm trying to ask is I wanna make sure it's not all at one area. So for instance, if this is the highest level math that we're having a hard time filling, that would concern me that we're gonna have students that are, they're lacking at that level, or, potentially at the lower end as well. So I guess I'm just wondering.
I found some data.
Woo-hoo.
East High School, math, let's see what the other,
I believe the other is West High School math.
West.
So both at the high school, I'm sorry, I'm really putting you on the spot and I don't mean to, but I'm just trying to determine where in the process. At highest level math,
No,
so middle or
Algebra.
lower, algebra, okay. Okay, so, will we receive an update? I guess as a board member, I'd like to receive an update to know that these positions have been filled before next week. Or what the system is going to be to make sure that our students at those levels are getting what they need.
So I can communicate information to the board about, our preparations for day one.
Right, I mean, especially, what are these students gonna be? If there's a substitute in there, they certainly wouldn't want Nancy Justman as their math teacher, I can assure you. So I'm wondering, who is, or who, what are the qualifications of these people? Because especially with algebra, I'm just guessing that right from the start, you have to kind of get them started. Everything's gonna build for the entire year.
Correct, and, what I can assure you is, just like if there was a maternity leave, or a paternity leave, or any other kind of medical leave, and we had a staff member anticipated returning, we will find the right substitute for that position. And, we do have, some highly qualified, substitute staff members already, building subs that, could step in if need be.
Okay, and then a question on the aides. I mean, you've mentioned that, math teachers are hard to find, so can you give us, and again, I'm asking you for just really quick your opinion. Is this a national problem with aides? Is this a localized problem? Is this a salary problem? Do you have any clue?
I can't answer that specifically, but I was talking to one of my staff members today, and she expressed that perhaps some of the problems in filling in aides is that it's not a full-time job and benefits aren't offered. So my first impression was like, wow, those are, aides, I would think you'd have a lot of people lining up at the door. But because of the number of hours and the fact that there aren't benefits, it's higher than what you'd think it would be.
I know, Russ, the nutrition department was one area that I understand there's quite a bit of turnover for similar reasons. Their hours might be from 11 to 1, just serving food, so it's kind of an awkward time, and perhaps the reimbursement or the pay isn't as good for those 2 hours, of course, versus an 8-hour day. But this particular person was just saying, getting creative in ways to fill these spots or to make it more appealing to the individuals that might be looking to just work a few hours is appreciated, because they recognize there can be a revolving door in certain departments, and identifying those and then coming up with a solution that is agreeable and supported by the board, by the community, would certainly be appreciated, just because it creates consistency in providing the work and such. So
There's a war for talent outside of schools as well. The job economy is heated up. It's much more favorable, and employers that haven't invested in their employees with professional education and so forth, people are going to start to move around, and you'll find that the highly skilled individuals that are in demand, they'll be very short, in short supply. So before I was hired, I did some research, and I was reading about the teacher shortage, and that's going to add, recruiting has always been difficult in sourcing good candidates, but now that we have a reduced labor shortage, we're going to have to get very creative, and that's where we want to make sure that we have really explored all the excellent things that we have to offer as a school district, including the community and the beauty of the land and so forth, and close to Milwaukee. And you're just going to have to really sell.